Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Top Agent Happy Hour. And we have a super special guest, the one, the only, our hostess was the mostest, Dustin Fox. And you guys are in for a treat today because I get the privilege of interviewing him to find out about how he has had just this meteoric rise in fame, became a PSR culture icon, how he has just accumulated accolades faster than most other agents could dream to do in a lifetime, and in 4 short years have just crushed it. We're going to dig deep, dive into what makes Dustin Fox tick today, and I'm super excited to be the one to do it. How are you today, buddy?
I'm good, man. Good. Locking down some listings. It's been good. Pontificating over Facebook ads. One of those days where I don't have any daytime appointments, so I'm able to just kind of look at my listings and think of new creative ideas on how to advertise them. And that's kind of like a dream day for me that I could just.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah. When, it's interesting because I think when you're a newer agent or you're just getting started, you would do anything to just have a slam-packed, jam-full day of appointments. And then when you actually finally get there, you would give almost anything to just have a break so you can get everything organized and feel like you're finally catching up. So I hear you loud and clear on that. But yeah, to kind of kick us off here and to start, I think it would be super helpful because kind of as we've been navigating through this podcast, it dawned on, I think, both of us that people may not know a lot, maybe some of our listeners may not know a lot about each of us individually and how we got where we are in our careers and our experiences, our struggles, and, ultimately just kind of the tail of the tape, so to speak. So I'd love to hear in your own words, you kind of synthesize your own experience leading up to getting into real estate, your life, and the decision that ultimately amounted to you deciding to get into real estate. And tell us a little bit about that, how you got into to this career path.
Yeah, no problem, Richard. I have been licensed. It'll be 4 years next month. Before that, I was basically a career retail management, big box retail. So Bed Bath & Beyond for 7 years. Pottery Barn as a general manager there for 3.5, 4 years. And I had a client come in one day and say, I actually was doing an in-home design consultation for them. So these people will buy $30,000, $50,000 worth of furniture, no problem.
Wow.
And when they're in their house, they just said, Dustin, you should consider getting into real estate. My aunt's a broker in Fairfax. You should talk to her. Because if you can sell all this stuff to me, you could sell a house. And that kind of put that thought in my mind.
Yeah.
And I wasn't unhappy with my job, but it just kind of like serendipity or timing. The next day we had like a jet trip. Pottery Barn's owned by Williams-Sonoma, and they had a big jet trip come down from California, and we're doing the whole dog and pony show walk. And, they pulled me aside afterwards and said, your sales are great. Your customer service scores are amazing, but the feedback we want to give you is you really need to just step back and just manage more. Because I had a little bit too much as the manager as the sales under my name. And that's been kind of like constant feedback every review time, every job I've ever had. I'm kind of a control freak. And I was controlling the meeting. So the way that went is, not everybody is comfortable talking in front of these bigwigs. So I would serve up a softball question to one of my employees, and they would already have a canned answer ready. And I think they could kind of feel that I had kind of rehearsed the whole thing with them.
Yeah.
So they were impressed, but at the same time, they could kind of see through it. And that kind of set me back, that feedback of, you need to step back and not do so much. And I'm like, man, I'm on the floor every day. I don't want to be in the office.
Sure.
I don't like being in the office. And that spurred me to go talk to the broker. I went and joined a Mosley class. Mike Wagner, one of PSR's, finest, was my Mosley instructor. He was actually at Keller Williams at the time. He was telling me everything great about Keller and why I needed to join Keller. And I interviewed 6 or 7 different brokerages and met Eric in like a closet-size office in Sterling. And I walked in based on a recommendation of another broker. She said, if you already had a strong book of business and you've been in this business for a long time, I think we would be a great fit for you. But I think because you're brand new and you're going to need to get in front of people and have leads and business immediately.
Sure.
I think this would be a better fit. Talk to this guy.
Wow.
And when I went in there, I was impressed with Eric as a person, but it felt like kind of like a call center. There was a bunch of young kids calling on the phone. I didn't know if they were ISAs or what, but it didn't feel like every other brokerage. But when I sat down with Eric and he was like, he asked me a bunch of questions saying like, what's your life situation right now? I'm married with 3 daughters. He's like, I'm assuming you're going to do this part-time. And I was like, no, I'm looking to do it full-time. And he was like, well, you're not going to make any money for like 3 to 6 months, probably, maybe longer. And he was the only one that was kind of telling me that, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think just the transparency, won me over. And I was like, I'm going to go with these guys because I knew that they were going to kind of help me with my business immediately.
Yeah.
And then the rest is history. I closed, I think 28, 30 deals my first year. And, I went off of Eric's lead. So my business kind of, a little bit of a roller coaster the second year. I think I had less transactions, but higher volume.
Yeah.
And then last year I did 20 million. This year I'm probably going to do 25, 30.
That's amazing, dude. I think you personify, and your experience is what I think most people like. That's their pie in the sky goal, right? I want to do that. Like they hear those tales, those legendary like unicorn fairy tales about people that get in and have this massive success. And dude, you did it. Like that's incredible. But as you were kind of describing that experience to me, one of the things that kind of stood out for me is you approached the business like a seasoned pro from jump. You interviewed 7 brokerages. That's insane. What type of questions were you asking when you were interviewing these brokerages?
Well, it was like 6 to 8. I was lucky because of that Pottery Barn client. She told me because her family was in real estate. She said, look, this is unlike any other job interview. Everyone's going to hire you, most likely. And because they make money off of you. So she said, really, you want to, I didn't like Google any questions. I just asked them like, for a new agent, what are you going to be providing me to help me learn and get in front of people immediately? So like Eric's lead program at the time was going to get me, Zillow leads, realtor.com leads, Boomtown leads. It was going to get me in front of people and force me to have those uncomfortable, awkward situations, because it is really awkward when you're brand new. You don't know what you're doing. And the only way to really figure it out is to have people ask you questions that you got to say, let me get back to you on that. And then you find it out.
So that's actually an interesting point you bring up too, because a lot of people, so I'm on the managing broker side of things. So a lot of predominantly my clientele now are agents, working with them, helping business planning, developing that kind of stuff. And something I see is kind of almost like, I don't know, extreme term, maybe an epidemic, not really an epidemic, but I see it's very, very common, is this analysis paralysis, agents being uncomfortable with the idea of trying to practice at a very high rate, doing a lot of volume until they know how to do the job through and through. How did you get past that? Was that even a roadblock for you going, hey, I did 28 transactions my first year, and up until a few months ago, I wasn't even in real estate. I didn't even know anything about this space or industry. How did you go from that to 28 transactions, learning the logistics of managing transactions, negotiating, facilitating, customer service, like all of the things that go into wearing the realtor hats? How'd you get past that and not be afraid?
For me, it was just the actual process of the transaction. I was really fortunate, and I tell any new agent this, is if you're going into your first listing presentation, or if you're going into your first transaction, find somebody in your brokerage that has experience that you can trust and say, hey, look, I'll give you 25%, 20%, 50%, whatever it is. If it's somebody that you really admire their business, really sweeten the pot and say, I want you to come in, help me win this listing presentation. And then I want to kind of take your lead. I will handle everything day to day, open houses, showings, everything like that. But maybe like the email communication, the weekly follow-up with the clients. And I was lucky to have that with Casey Minish. She went with me on my first listing presentation. And I've said this on the podcast when I interviewed her. When I walked out of there, I was like really confident and I felt really good about it. But I was like, it was my first real estate listing presentation. Yeah. So I was like, you think we did okay? And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, we crushed that. So
Oh,
it was a sale buy side. So I was able to learn both sides that
wow.
first one, and really minus like intricacies of like a septic inspection or lead or like small things like that. When you get just a one sale under your belt, list side or a buy side, the confidence just skyrockets in terms of what you think you know,
Sure.
and how you're going to articulate that to the next person. Because when you start showing houses immediately, you're just like, you're almost scared of what question they're going to ask you. Like,
Mm.
what if they ask me how many transactions I've done? What if they ask me how long I've been in the business? What if they ask me this? So you're just like praying and hoping, like clinging on, like hope they don't ask me this, hope they don't ask me that. So I was lucky that I had Casey there on that first transaction. And I really encourage anybody that's brand new to do that. After that, I really didn't need any help,
Mm.
other than like reaching out to a broker occasionally for a specific question regarding a transaction.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I did it.
I love that, man. I love that. So kind of pivoting here a little bit, what's your typical day look like? How are you blocking your time or managing your schedule? Any systems or tools that you use specifically to help you be more efficient with your time? And then lastly, kind of like what's your morning routine? When do you pack it in? When you go to bed? How much sleep are you getting? Just kind of tell me a little bit about your just kind of your daily schedules.
So I have a little bit of like a low level obsessive compulsive behavior.
Mhm.
But it comes in waves. So I get very singular focused on one thing. Like I'll go 6 months or a year, where I'm meditating every morning and I'm waking up at 5. And then I'll go, 4 months to a year where I'm not doing that. So the agents that say like they have a daily routine, they do this every single day. I wish I was like that, because when I was trying to reach my goal of like getting to 30 transactions, and I had an aspiration of like, okay, these are my big dreams of like, I want to sell my house, get into a much bigger house. I want to provide this for my family. I want to pay for my daughter's college. I want to do like certain things. I was, obviously writing that down every day, and I was waking up at 5. Now I'm honestly not waking up at 5. My morning routine is shamefully like probably my daughter waking me up to say like, hey, we got to get on the bus. So I'm not getting a lot of things knocked out early in the morning. And,
Good.
I let a lot of my business dictate me, but I do prioritize things from, I will write down almost like the way in middle school you would say like, I love, this person like 3 times. I will
Yeah.
write the same thing down every single day 3 times. I have about 10 goals, and I write them just to remind myself like this is what I need to be focusing on. So like a year ago, it was I'm going to send out 5,000 postcards a month. Now it's I'm going to send 10,000 postcards a month. I'm always going to be running a Facebook ad for all of my listings. I'm always going to be running a sphere of influence ad. Like these are the things that I write down to remind myself, like this is how I'm getting my business. And these are the things that I have to make sure that I'm doing at all times. After I write that down, I put what value can I bring my clients? And I put everybody from a buy side or a lister, or a prospect. And I will just sit there and daydream on what potential value I can give to somebody. It didn't take me very long when I was on internet leads to realize I did not want to be calling people that I had never met before and
Yeah.
saying like, hey, did you want to see that house, or you want to work with me? Like just checking in, like one of those
Yeah.
emails. I never wanted to be that guy. So,
Right.
so I would scour the forums for coming soons, or check Zillow coming soon or MLS coming soons. So I always had something to give them a value.
Right.
I wasn't just pestering them to just be like, hey, you want to give me money? I never wanted to come across like that. So really just thinking about how you can bring value to somebody and just pontificating on that for a few minutes every morning, the people that are in
Sure.
your pipeline, and say like, hey, what can I do for them that would be helpful, would make a huge impact on anybody's business.
Dude, I really like that. That you like have a strategy around your follow up, and before you even reach out, you stop and think, how can I add value to the relationship? How can I come from contribution, reaching out to this person, so that I'm never coming across as that like, hey, I'm calling you purely because I need to make a sale. I'm calling you because I genuinely care, right? Like that's essentially what you're communicating, and that's probably pretty evident in your success that people respond well to that.
Well, yeah, and I think as I've grown into more of the luxury space, with that comes a higher pressure, and I'll have agents contact me all the time to say, hey, can I buy you coffee or can I buy you lunch? And can I talk about, I have this listing that I have a tough time selling. And then I'll say, okay, well, show me your routine. We sit down. I say, like, what are you sending them every Monday? And they're just like, I'm just sending them kind of the Zillow stats. And I'm like, this is why you have apprehension and anxiety regarding this transaction, because deep down inside, you know that your client's probably unhappy that you could be doing more, but you just don't know what you can do that would actually be helpful to your client. So once they figure that out in terms of actually providing value for them, then those conversations are suddenly, you're excited to have them every Monday to say, like, look, this is what I'm doing. I have, a shoebox full of ideas that I can do for any listing at any given time that I can say, like, this is what we're doing this week. This is the ad campaign we're doing this week. So I never have to have my clients wonder, like, what am I doing to sell their house? They know at all times.
Communication, man, that's key. And you're proactively doing it. So you're also kind of preserving your schedule, because I think people who are more reactive in how they respond to their sellers, and they aren't sending them those weekly status reports, if not more frequently, then when the sellers reach out, it's typically not at a convenient time. You don't have all the information in front of you for the metrics and the numbers that they want. You probably don't have your plan or plan of action that you promised to deliver on in front of you. So you're then having to scramble and try and give them some sort of response that instills hope and faith in your ability to sell their home. But if you're reaching out, they're going to start to understand, that your process is on Monday. They're getting an update. They're going to know exactly what's coming. And I don't know what Karen's actual quote was on this, but I heard her on a podcast a couple years ago, and I really took that advice to heart. She said, when you're reaching out to the client, it's like a 2-minute conversation, 5-minute max. But when the client's calling you about something, it's like a 20-minute conversation. Yeah. So I kind of inherently knew that anyways, but like just her saying that when I was a brand new agent, I was like, no, that is true. Like if I'm the one just constantly reaching out and they're not saying, hey, what's going on with this? Have you heard anything? You're opening yourself for a world of pain. Absolutely. For those of you guys who don't know, our listeners, Karen is Karen Cooper. She's one of the co-owners, leaders of the Platinum Group, which is #1 team with Pearson Smith Realty. Did over 400 transaction sides last year. They have a pretty lofty goal to do $1 billion in volume in a calendar year, which is pretty stellar. So when she speaks, a lot of people listen, and that was great advice. So for sure. Now, let me ask you this, Dustin. Real estate can be a grind, right? And I think that, there's things that happen and problems, and you're constantly navigating different personalities and negotiations, and emotions run high, right? So how do you handle setbacks in your business and still maintain, the hope and optimism moving forward that you're still moving towards achieving those goals you've set for yourself? How do you keep staying positive and motivated in those moments where you're just kind of having setbacks or doubts or questions?
Alcohol.
Dude, I hear you, man. I hear you. What's your drink of choice?
Probably right now, like a Scotch Mist, like just a double old fashioned, cup full of ice, and just Scotch on top of it. But in all seriousness, in terms of like staying motivated, I've never been the one. I will occasionally, like if I lose a listing presentation, like I don't have a problem getting over it, but I will check in. Like I will look at the listing like a few weeks later to just see, like, let me see what's going on if this person was able to sell this. That's about as much as I stay on it. I don't really stay negative or downtrodden for very long. I'm lucky that, I'm at the age of 40 that I was never prescribed like Adderall, but I probably have ADHD. It was like, just don't give that kid like a Coke or a cupcake. So I don't have that. Like, I don't ponder on like a negative thing too long. I'm just like kind of on to the next item constantly. And I'm also never satisfied. It's like, even if my business is doing well and I have a lot of deals pending, I'm not ever satisfied with that. I just want to continue to go after. I'm more excited about the thrill of competition and the thrill of winning a competitive listing appointment than I am of like making money. And that's, my wife probably doesn't like that because I'm like, more marketing. Yeah. She's kind of trying to reel me in constantly.
Sure. Oh, that's a good dynamic to have though. Like your life partner and them being able to kind of keep you rooted when you got wings and you want to fly. In a lot of ways, that's pretty awesome. I know my wife does the same thing for me because I have like Brian Buffini. He does this when I was in coaching with him. He does his personality profile he bought. So it's like proprietary to them. And they had a classification for personality style. And it's called the Olympian, right? And Olympians are always trying to best their best. So even if they're the best in the world, that's never enough. They want to best it. So when they hit a goal, they don't spend much time going, I won this goal or I accomplished this thing. It's like, what am I going to do next? How am I going to improve upon this? And that's the Olympian. And there's good and there's bad in that. Right? You know, you have to stop and be able to enjoy your wins to a degree, but at the same time, it sounds like you probably have that type of Olympian in you and that, you know, you're always just trying to improve. Growth is the overall focus, and you're not afraid of competition because competition lets you know where you stand professionally.
Yeah. And I talked about that in a meeting with you last week with some agents, and that when I knew that I wanted to kind of start getting luxury listings, I knew I didn't have the years of experience or the volume to really compete in that space, but I knew if I could just get in front of them, I could learn a lot by every single loss. So I would go into, you know, a McLean listing presentation for 3 million, and I'm competing with all the big shots there in that space, and just kind of, you know, showing them everything that I'm doing. And they say, look, marketing wise, you're great. They would, relationship wise, they would like me enough to call me back a few days later, to say, Dustin, hey, we really liked everything you said. We think you have a really smart marketing plan, but unfortunately we're going to go with somebody that, you know, has more experience or volume. And then I would say, hey, you know, obviously I kind of share with you my goals that I want to be, you know, in the top 10 of DC metro area agents within 10 years. And because I am competitive like that, can you tell me, you know, what it is from a marketing perspective that I could learn that any other agent that you interview does that, you know, could help, I could add for the next client. And you just start writing those things down. You start adding them to your portfolio and what you're going to do for clients, and stop looking at losses as like, oh my God, I just spent 8 hours preparing for this listing presentation over 2 days and I got nothing out of it. You got a lot out of it.
Right.
As long as you're willing to add that stuff, you know, to your listing presentation, you know, it's invaluable.
Yeah. That's like Zig Ziglar's famous quote. It's either a blessing or a lesson, right? Mm-hmm. So it's one of the two. It's not failure, you know, it's feedback. So, you know, I think that's really cool. I know some agents that they really use that reverse survey when they're unsuccessful converting a client and reaching out and getting that constructive criticism or that feedback so that they can make improvements to their business. Because, you know, ultimately nobody starts right out the gate as, you know, a top 1% real estate agent. It's a process, right? It's a refinement process, getting the feedback, making it better. And the only way you know what to change is if you get that feedback from people, you know, those around you that you trust, those clients that you get the opportunity to work with, and then being receptive to hearing that feedback is important too. I think a lot of us, like, we kind of have those defense mechanisms and we'll block out, you know, that negativity. Oh, no, it's negativity. I don't need to hear that. You know, I need only positivity around me. But in reality, if there's some truth to it, you need to be able to self-examine and be able to make changes as necessary to really grow.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to find clients or people in your life that are going to give it to you straight like that. People are naturally passive aggressive, or they don't want to hurt your feelings. Not on the internet, but face to face or over the phone.
Oh, for sure.
They're going to sugarcoat things. So it's really hard to kind of get to the truth of like the real reasons why they didn't go with you. So if you can kind of switch it up around of like, why didn't you list with me? They're not going to tell you the real reason. But if you just say from a competitive, so I can learn, you know, they're going to be more likely to share with you.
Yeah. I mean, they probably wouldn't feel comfortable being like, you were too handsome, so I couldn't hire you because that it made me uncomfortable, you know? So that's a problem I'm sure you have pretty regularly.
That was a problem I had about 30 pounds ago.
You and me both, brother. You and me both. Oh, and we should make a nice little segue here. Today's sponsor of our podcast is Bang Energy Drinks. This is how Richard maintains his optimism, enthusiasm, and excitement day to day. Bang, our unofficial sponsor for today's podcast.
Are you selling Amway on the podcast?
No, man, these Bang Energy Drinks are awesome. They don't have all the stuff that'll kill you like Red Bulls and Monsters. It's as natural as they come. It doesn't cause me to have heart palpitations, but it keeps me in this perfect state, this perfect state of excitement.
And you can buy them from me as well as your paper towels and other household goods.
You can. And if you buy some and then your friend buys some and then your friend's friend buys some, then I'm doing really well. So that's how it works. All right. Next question I got for you, Dustin. What was the most challenging transaction that you experienced and how'd you get through it?
I mean, I have a lot of them. I could probably give you my top two. One was one of my first transactions. I was a brand new agent. I was on the list side, or I was representing them on the buy side. They were a list buy. They wrote an offer on a property in Leesburg. They said that the seller wanted to do a home of choice. So I, without asking anybody, assumed that my timelines, just like the last my first buyer transaction I did, was like, okay, I have 7 days or 10 days for a home inspection. And I thought it was once they let me know of their home of choice. So I called them on day 5 and said, hey, she said, yep, everything's good. I was going to call you this morning. You're good to go. If you want to, have you scheduled home inspection? I'm like, no, I was kind of waiting on this. She was like, go ahead. And the day that I walked in for the home inspection, the agent knew when the home inspection was and called me as I was walking the door to say, like, you're already past your home inspection timeline. So we're going to go ahead and let you, from an FYI standpoint, continue this, but they're not going to do anything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you could imagine, like, being a new agent. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't want this to affect my clients at all. So I had them go in there. I didn't try to lead them in any direction in terms of what was important and what was not. I told them, you guys go ahead and send me the list of things that you want repaired and I'll request it. And I just paid for it myself. So,
wow.
I was lucky that it wasn't too bad, that it was only about $1,000 worth of repairs. But it was still like, this could have been really bad for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So there was that one. And then, I've had my share of listings as my business has grown where, they have 4 cats and 3 of them are elderly, and the homeowners have been in the house for 50 years and they're emotionally attached to the cats, and every feedback that you send them, they say they want it honestly and send it to me exactly how you get it. And then you send it. And every time someone says, like, the house smells like cats, they call you and blow up, and, you're kind of dreading that phone call every single day. But really the only way you combat that is to just, the same way that your kids ask you for things when you're in a good mood, you ask your clients for things when you're delivering good news. Right. So you're not going to say, like, oh, I want to, you need to reduce your price without delivering them something of value.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be giving you this many views on Facebook. I'm going to be giving you this. We're going to time a price reduction with this type of ad spend, with this type of exposure. So for me, that stuff doesn't really stress me out. That was kind of like my most difficult ones, but I don't really have too many that make me lose sleep.
Good. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I was just curious because I think it's important to kind of like humanize the process. Even top producers have challenging transactions. So for people to hear that, I think that can be helpful. Production-wise, for 2019, the rest of the year and for your next 12 months, what's kind of your stretch goal? What are you trying to accomplish with your business? Where do you want to go?
I would be happy. I think I would be happy with 30 million, growing it to that, doing 20 last year or doing close to 20. I think it was like 19 and a half. So I think 30 million would make me happy. But with that, I haven't had any strong desires to start a team or do anything like that. And I've had a lot of agents ask me, hey, or experienced agents to say, hey, you're never really going to grow to the way you want to grow until you're going to be able to step back and let other people do some of these things. But I was in retail for so long and managing people for so long that I knew that I was craving autonomy. And I was just craving autonomy. And then when I got it, it was the first time I'd ever worked for myself. So it was kind of like a liberating feeling that I'm like, okay, whatever I do, I get to show for it. I'm not responsible for anybody else. And now the business has grown to a point where, I'm having to give, have people show houses for me
Mm.
that sort of thing. And, it's probably going to be something that's going to happen down the pipeline.
Yeah. What's interesting there, and I think the listener should take away is teams aren't right for everybody. And something I learned, because good God, I ran a team horribly for way more years than I ran it successfully. And the thing is that I think people get in and have teams for all the wrong reasons. Like someone tells them, oh, like they just said to you, their limiting belief, you can't be successful until you can scale and leverage other people. The problem is when you start having other people that you have to supervise and manage and meet their expectations, that's another full-time job on top of everything else you're already doing at a high volume rate. So you really have to ask yourself, do one, I have the experience from a management and a leadership standpoint to meet these people's expectations of me while still delivering exceptional service and driving business to the team as a whole? And for you, you are one of the few exceptions where you came into the business with a lot of management experience. So you're looking at it going, I know what that level of commitment looks like. And I got to commend you for kind of bucking the trend of most people being like, I got to start a team as soon as humanly possible. When in reality, I think you really need to have a clearly defined plan and understand what all you're undertaking when starting a team. It's not a small responsibility. It's a big one for sure, even with just one person.
Yeah, and I think it's like transaction wise, like week to week on a list side or a buy side, I think that those things would be easily transferable to another agent in terms of accountability and what you need to do for your client. But I've never put pen to paper to say like, this is what you're going to do for this client from a service aspect. This is how you're going to win over a buyer that just called you off the internet, and this is the first time you're meeting them. And this is how you win over somebody in an open house. And this is how you do this. Those are the things that I just kind of inherently know because I had to talk to people that did not want to talk to me for 19 years in retail. Yeah. That is hard for me to it was hard for me to train people in that when I worked retail. Sure. It was more just like I'm leading by example more than I'm actually training you. So that's kind of been my hesitation to be, I don't want anything, I don't want anybody's interaction with a client that has my name on it or a portion of my name on it to reflect poorly on me if that service level is not up to par.
Yeah, I hear you. So next question I have for you is, how are you where you are right now? Like, what is the predominant driving forces of lead generation or business opportunities for your business the way that it's run now? Where are you getting your business from? How are you producing?
Mainly probably listings to leads, Facebook ads, like the landing page that we offer through the brokerage. Facebook ads and postcards are like my 1 and 2. The way I was able to break into getting the listings in the first place was expired and withdrawals. So I never had like the gumption to call or door knock. I tried doing it. I paid for Vulcan 7 and like for like 3 days, I was like, I just like the anxiety came pounding down on me. And I know that comes with practice, but like you guys do call nights there. I never once went to a call night. I never once wanted to because I'm very much more on the Seth Godin kind of permission marketing. And I'm always thinking of like, how do I react? Even if somebody's selling me a real estate related business item, I just like before they even finish their sentence, I said, thanks for the call. Not interested. Hang up. And like me hearing that on the other end would just like devastate me. I'm like, for sure. I'm obviously bugging this person. So I know that it's a mindset thing, but I would identify expired and withdrawals that were in the MLS. And then I would, in the beginning, when I had time, I would heartfelt write to them long form, handwritten, exactly what I would do to sell their house. And I wouldn't say anything that was wrong with their previous listing or, like I would never say your photos are bad or anything. I would just bullet point and list everything that I loved about their house, everything and how I would showcase that and what I would do differently from a listing perspective. And I did it probably 2 or 3 months every day for like 6 to 8 hours a day without knowing that it would ever work. And my wife thought I was psychotic. I had like this writing room in the basement of my townhouse. And I remember I was on 7 near Countryside. And I remember exactly where I was when I got the first phone call. It was like, Dustin, I want to talk to you about selling my house if it gets you to stop writing me letters. Because I think
Oh man. Hey, that's like you wore down that girl. You were trying to get a date all those years.
Yeah.
No. It's like, I'll go on a date for you to stop asking. Like
that's kind of The Ultimate Sales Machine,
Yep.
that book.
Yep.
They talk
Chet
about,
Holmes?
yeah, Chet Holmes. Yeah. They talk about, 10 hits over 5 months or every 2 weeks, sending them something every 2 weeks. It just wears you down. You're like, okay, if somebody expires and withdrawn, they're going to get a postcard. They're going to get phone calls in the very beginning. They might get a marketing package once or twice.
Right.
But very few agents have the persistence to say like, and make a to-do list of, I'm going to do this for 4 to 6 hours and come up with a plan to market to them over and over and over again, because it sends a message to the prospective client like, okay, this is more than my listing agent communicated with me, and this is just my mail. Like how persistent are they going to be on the list side? So I was able to kind of break in the listings with that, and then I was able to leverage my listings into more listings through open houses, through Facebook ads, that sort of thing. Beautiful.
What was did you ever get the metrics on those letters, like how many handwritten letters it took per call? Like, do you know what those numbers were?
No, I don't have them off the top of my head, but what I did do was, when you're writing pen to paper, you get like a new idea every time. So each letter was slightly different. So I would have a spreadsheet and I would write like letter 1, or I would name the letter like heartfelt or persuasion or this or that. And whenever I would get a call back, I would go back into Boomtown where I would log what type of letter I sent. And I would say, okay, this one's working. And I would put a check mark. And then over time, over the 10 different letters that I was sending, I would start to realize, okay, this one's getting the most response. This is more persuasive. I need to put this earlier on in the sequence and go that. But it's tough because most agents, just like anything else, they have a hard time with consistency. So you could hear this and get motivated and say, I'm going to do this, and do it for 2 days and not get a response and say, no, this is not a good use of my time. But for me, when it's slow in the wintertime, it's perfect. September to January, everybody's kind of taken their house off the market that wasn't able to sell it. And it's already slow for you anyways. Right. So it's a slower time of the year. So you can, collect 100 to 200 of them. I would try to get a list of 200 to 300. And out of those 200 or 300, I would sadly only get about 7 listings. But more listings would come from those listings. So it's a lot. It's a big chore when you're doing that level of follow-up with letters all the time. But it's exciting when you start seeing it work.
Oh, for sure. And you were targeting predominantly high dollar properties with this effort, right?
Yeah, it was mostly 600 plus, but like my first big one was like 1.8 in Vienna. And I was like, when I go in there, because they told me they were interviewing multiple agents, I'm like, I knew it was like 80% research, like 20% actual salesmanship. So when I went in there, I went into the Fairfax County Library, to the Freeman House in Vienna, like the little old history house. Yeah. I got every single book I could on the history of Vienna and researched as much as I could about their specific street, and made an entire campaign based on the historical significance. So I said, week 1 of coming soon, I'm going to be showing like this photo and talking about Air Hill. Then I'm going to be doing this week 2, week 3, week 4. And I got lucky that the guy was like an historian himself. So I had no idea that I was going to have that type of luck with it. But sometimes, when you're putting in the time and the work, luck will find you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, good things happen when you're just creating activity and you're doing activity. So, dude, that's absolutely fantastic. So, Dustin, what would you say is what one marketing thing that you've done in your business gave you the most surprising result?
Probably postcards. I was such an early proponent on Facebook ads really early. And, in fact, I think a lot of my when I'm training Pearson Smith agents on Facebook ads, a lot of my early presentation was like, why would you spend, $1,500 to send postcards to 5,000 homes when you could spend, $50 and hit all of those same people for a $50 Facebook ad or more. Right. So it just didn't really make sense to me economically. And then when I started really looking as my business grew and I started competing against agents that were higher up in the business, or when I was losing listing presentations, like I said earlier, and they would tell me, oh, this one agent, they have a full-time marketing person and they find our demographic avatar for our neighborhood 45 to 55 with 2 kids, 2+ kids. And, they send out postcards to all those people. And I'm thinking, okay, that's like a fair housing violation. Like you can't target by age.
Sure.
You're not
Or
supposed
families.
to. Or families. You're not supposed to do that. And then I also thought, okay, like they're full of crap. Like they're just sending this to just listed postcards and just solds to the entire neighborhood. I'm not naive, but I'm not sharing that with the client. But then I would use that in my next listing presentation to say, you may hear an agent that says they do this or this. This is what I do, and this is why it's a little bit different. I don't name any names, but I just use it to my advantage, the knowledge that I gain. So I think I didn't think it was going to work, but the agents that I was admiring their business, I was seeing that they were spending very little on Facebook ads, but they were getting a lot of postcards. And then I just, I have family. I'm from Fairfax County, so every family member that I knew, I would say, hey, I'd give them a call and say, start collecting real estate postcards. Anything you have, just hold on to them for me so I can take a peek at them. And then I would just see different postcards and I would look up what type of business that agent was doing. And I'm like saying, okay, over 12 months, if this is the same postcard and their business is this is obviously, this is obviously working. So I started implementing that to just say, like, I can't continue to just spend 4 to 6 hours stuffing envelopes and writing letters for expired and withdrawals. It's just not long-term. I'm going to need to have it automated to a certain degree.
Good stuff, Dustin.
And then like in terms of what was the most surprising thing about the postcard, for me, it was rather than I was doing it like every other agent that I saw, because that's what I saw was successful. It was like, go on to this, CentervilleHomeValue.com and enter your property valuation. And I was expending so much energy when I would have somebody fill out a property valuation form, sending them a CMA and then following up, and nothing was ever happening. They're just curious about their home value.
Right.
And then finally, like getting more of a lead magnet and narrowing the field and saying, like, for a pre-seller's, like 6 secrets every home seller should know for a pre-seller's planning kit, go to this website and I'll send you like 6 secrets that'll be so powerful, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, I really want them to read that, and I only want them to go to it because they're thinking about selling their house.
Right.
Eliminate all the waste leads and only people that are actually thinking about selling their house.
Yeah. Aim small, miss small, my friend. That's exactly it. So you're just hyper targeting what you're looking for. Dude, yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I think a lot of people do poo-poo the postcards, but they're out there in bulk. And I guess it's really just as you refine the process, you learn from it, and you update it, then it can give you results like you just said.
People are getting less mail than they've ever had. I mean, besides their Amazon packages, you're getting less direct mail because of Facebook ads, because of online advertising. So it's more impactful. And for me, the big aha was I went to Leanne's class, one of Herndon's best agents, one of Pearson Smith's best agents. And I was really motivated. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I sent out 2 postcards back-to-back months. And then it was like January, February. And like most agents, I was stupid and I stopped. And I was in a listing presentation in May or June. She called me and said, like, I saw your reviews online. I want to talk to you about selling my house. I got all the way to the end of the listing presentation where I'm, saying 6%. And she said, oh, I have your postcard here that said, like, for a limited time only, can you still honor this? And I was like, oh, I stopped too early. And then I realized, I started putting it together. Like, if she saw my Facebook ad, she's not going to screenshot that and leave it on her desktop. It's like gone.
Right.
But the postcard is actually something that they can hold on to and put in their drawer for.
Well, it has tangible worth, right? It has value. Like if they throw it away, you lose out on that opportunity to get a reduced rate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, man. That's awesome. All right. So moving forward, what is something you think that's going to be a game changer in our industry, or something new that you're planning to adopt to help your business grow? What are you thinking?
I don't really have anything new. I have been adding more cinematic approach to my drone video, more lifestyle type videos, because I've seen, surprisingly, I would add, like when I'm running a Facebook ad, if I'm doing like the property tour video, if it starts from the outside and goes to the inside, a single photo would get like twice the click-throughs or the results as the actual video tour, because there's nothing else for them to see. They're seeing the whole thing. So then I started saying, okay, I'm going to separate my interior photo guy versus my drone company person. And I'm going to run more targeted based ads just off of the exterior and lifestyle of the house more, because I'll get more clicks, because you have to leave them wanting more. They're going to click the ad to see the interior photos, and you'll in turn get their email address.
That's awesome.
But what I do find interesting in terms of the industry as a whole is, you have, everybody, the iBuyers. I just saw purple bricks is kind of falling apart in some countries.
Yep.
And while that's happening, Zillow's iBuyer is growing. The whole Remax thing last week, where they sent the memo out, and I guess they ended their partnership with Redfin, their referral partnership, because now they're doing the same thing. It's just like how you see the business going. Agents are always surprised with me when they'll see a Zillow coming soon, or if they see like me listed as the agent on both sides, even though I'm not dual rep, or they'll say just I'm the only one on the transaction, and they'll assume that I was doing dual rep and getting both sides of the commission.
Right.
But it was really about the consumer. I'm saving my client 2.5% that they thought they were going to pay me, and now they're not paying me.
Right.
That's really what a lot of these people are doing. Like Redfin and Zillow are smart. They're saving clients money by allowing them to not use a buyer's agent or their potential lister to not do it. So when you climb into the consumer's head and get out of your real estate, your own selfish real estate mind, it makes a lot of sense, but it threatens a lot of agents.
Sure.
For me, I don't really compete much in that space. I think I've only been in like two listing interviews where they were interviewing a discount brokerage or Redfin, and I've never lost. And it's been the same way I have lost on the buy side in like a buyer meeting, but it's not really something that I fret over.
Sure.
Because if you're selling $1 million plus house, and the average days on market are 250, 300, like in that range, like you're not going to want to list with somebody that's not going to be doing anything innovative week to week.
Right. Right. And they don't have the marketing budget to play the long game. And that's all luxury market, man. Those things sit for a long time because the buyer pool is smaller.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I went after it. Most agents are intimidated about that space. But when you really consider it, there's less agents that are selling luxury than are selling traditional. So you actually have less competition. And some of the worst marketing is in the luxury space in this area. So what you're doing for a $600,000 client would be probably more impressive to $1 million plus, when some of the more experienced, more tenured agents aren't doing any of these things.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting take, man. Yeah, I think that's something that agents should consider for sure. So kind of moving us forward a little bit more here, what is one of the biggest mistakes you see other agents making?
I think just going back to what I said about not putting the client's needs first. They get too consumed with like, will I get paid, or the transaction, and not doing what's right by the client. I just had an unfortunate situation this week where the lender called me last week and said, your buyer, like it was a VHDA buyer. They had no money down. They were staying with their parents' house. No money down, no money for closing costs. It was tough for this market, but she's shopping in Winchester. So we get her the deal. I sent her to my best VHDA guy. And then a week before settlement, they call me and say, "Hey, Dustin, I'm really sorry. The VHDA guidelines came back, and they can only do $250, and the price was $280." And I'm like, "Okay, well, why didn't you know the guidelines?" Like, but ultimately, I did not want her to lose this house, so I ended up losing my entire commission to push her into FHA. So.
Wow.
I have the luxury of being able to do that.
Sure.
But even if you weren't able to do it, you either you're going to not let the transaction happen at all, and your client's not going to get the house and you're not going to get paid, or in this case, I'm just not going to get paid, but my client's still going to get the house, and she'll be my client forever.
That's incredible. I mean, that's a testament to who you are kind of as a person, your core values and your mission statement. I mean, you put money where your mouth is. Like you're going to do right by your client before you do right by you. And I think that that's a really big thing. And I think you and I see very eye to eye on that. It was interesting when I used to do pipelines with my team, and we'd go around and we'd be talking about the business that we had. I forbid my agents from using the word transaction or deal. They weren't allowed to. They had to refer to everything as a relationship. Hey, this relationship's getting close to closing, because you need to humanize the process and make these people understand that people don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? To kind of use a widely used phrase, but it's so important that you don't lose sight of that, because those people become advocates for your business, right? They're going to down the road endorse you, and you can't even predict the overall upside to doing or making a sacrifice like that for somebody. I can promise you that person's never going to use another agent. They're never going to recommend another agent. They might fight somebody if somebody else recommends in their vicinity another agent to someone else. They'll be like, no, I will punch you in the head if you don't use Dustin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm lucky that I have a few of those raving fans. I've had phone calls where it's almost uncomfortable, where a friend of mine will be at a bar and they'll be like, hey, I need you to talk to this person. They're obviously drunk. And
right.
They're like, I'm going to put you on the phone. I'm like, this is awkward for everybody. You're literally at a bar and you meet this person that says they're going to buy a house.
Yep.
And you're like forcing them on the phone with me. Like, I'm a pretty good salesman, but not that good to not make that awkward. And then when I go to meet with the couple, they're like, that guy would not leave me alone until I talk to him.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
A few of those. For
sure. All right, cool, man. So what's one thing you're most proud of in your business, and one thing if you could go back and change, you would?
I don't have I think just doing the right thing by my clients has been the most thing that I'm proud of, is that I've never had a client ever fire me. And that's kind of like going back in retail, is I used to tell all my associates, I've never had a customer complaint. I've never had anybody ever like call corporate or say like they're unhappy with my service. And I've never in real estate had anybody decide to, end a relationship with me. And that's probably the most thing that I'm proud of, is that even if it's been a tough sale or the house has been on the market for a year, they are still happy with what I'm providing, and they're still sticking with me. That's probably like my proudest thing over any number or anything like that. And the minute that I don't have that, regardless of how I grow, I'm going to have to step back and say like, okay, how do I figure out how to grow, but still maintain that type of attitude with every client?
Right.
That's the most important thing.
For sure. And then I'm sure a close second's PSR culture icon. Yeah. So that's got to be up there, man.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was going to be 2-time, but Sean took it.
Dude,
So
man. He took your reign. You were reigning champion. And he snuck right in there, man. You can't beat those outfits though. That's where he got you. I think is his enthusiasm, and he just wears it more.
I'm thinking this year, I think I might have to meet with enough agents about Facebook ads and postcards.
Yeah.
That I'm just going to go to Eric, that it's going to be like Jordan retiring from basketball, playing White Sox for a year and coming back. Like, I'm coming back for the belt this year.
Dude, you got my vote, man. You got my vote.
I'm going to be that helpful.
Yeah, you got to. I like it. Cool. What's the one thing, if you could go back in time and change, you would?
I probably would have found a farm immediately and started doing postcards. It's hard when you're a newer agent, like the cost involved up front. But as soon as you have some transactions under your belt, I realized, when you have a listing, I'm licensed DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So any agents out there that ever listen to this, if you need a referral or anything in those areas, DC or Maryland, I can help you out. I forgot the question.
What would you go back and change?
Oh yeah, I would get a farm going immediately, because when I'm doing a listing in Maryland or DC and I got to so much as change a rider or add flyers to the box, or take a central lock off to put a combo on, like those items for me are like, ugh. But when they're in my own farm or they're closer by, nothing feels like a chore. I'm like, yeah, I'm coming by after dinner, no problem.
Sure,
I'll have it done. And just getting something consistent. I was telling your guys, the guys that you're coaching last week, that I went on a listing presentation on a 1.8 in Oakton, and I really was competing in like a luxury space. And the guy told me that I'm on Friday and I'm agent number 5. So I'm like, okay, I really need to outshine the competitors if I'm even going to have a chance on Friday. So I go out there early in the morning, taking a drone photo from the street. I'm not like in his yard or anything, but I just wanted to have it for my listing presentation. And a guy's walking his dog and walks by and says, "Hey, are you in real estate?" I'm wearing my polo, so he knows I am. I'm like, "Yeah." He's
Sure.
like, "I'm actually listing my house in 3 weeks." I said, "Oh, great. Who are you listed with?" Gives me the name. I said, "Oh, you're in good hands. She's crushing out here. You're in really good hands." He's like, "Well, they're not doing drone." I said, "Yeah, but trust me, like if I had their book of business, like they're doing something right, you're fine." And when they started to walk away, I said, "Well, why did you, I'm just curious, why did you decide to go with that agent?" And they said, "Well, I've just been getting their mail for 20 years. So there's just like, there's a book, Reality and Advertising, that talks about if you send something to the same audience every single month for 12 months, half of the people that receive your mailer, say you're doing 5,000 mailers, 2,500 people 12 months from now will say, like, I know who that is."
Yeah.
If they interview the same people 18 months later, the same group, it'll still be at 50%, but it'll be at 25% from the category that didn't know before and 25% that did. It's always going to be 50%. So you just have to consistently do it all the time.
Right.
And I just wish I would have spent more on postcards than I did on Zillow and like those third-party leads. To build my listing business. I understood that like you need the list to win and to grow your business, because you can't help that many buyers. But I just really didn't, I thought it was antiquated, the postcards.
Interesting. Yeah, man, I love that. I love that. You're absolutely right. Well, at the end of the day, if you're controlling the audience that you're sending your mailers out to, you're in control of your business. When you're paying a third-party site to provide you leads, they control your business, right? They make a change, they modify it. You're no longer in control of how your business is going to benefit from those opportunities. So yeah, that's a really great.
And that's what everybody just went through with the changes of Zillow, when everybody's paying.
And Realtor, look at Realtor. They're going, OpCity, and they're going to go the referral model now too. And that's a burner for a lot of people. So that's an interesting take. I'm glad you said, because you see people wait till much later in their career to start doing the farming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So cool, man. All right. So last segment here, last question. Other than the advice I've given you, because all of that's exceptional advice, what would you see the best advice you've ever received was?
It was probably when I was interviewing like those 7 or 8 brokerages when I was brand new, or I was getting my license. And there was an agent that told me during the interview, which she'd been in the business for like, I think 60 or 50 years or something. It was crazy. And she said, "You're going to do really well, I can tell. But I want to give you one point of advice." She was the one that told me that their brokerage was not a good fit for me and recommended that I talk to Eric. She said, "Never, ever screw over another agent in this business, because the word will get around and your reputation is everything. And the minute that the agents can't trust you, then your business is shot." So I just have really believed in that. Like, whatever I promise an agent, whether it's a referral or any amount, like my word, I'm going to stick to it. And I try to be as honorable as I possibly can.
Cool, man. Yeah, I like it. I like that a lot. That's great advice. So let the audience know if somebody wanted to reach out to you for advice or to send you a potential referral, or, for basically just to give your work, get wisdom from you, what would be the best way they could connect with you?
My phone number is 703-927-1461. You can text or call me anytime. My Facebook is Devin and Dustin Fox, Pearson Smith Realty. And my email is Dustin with a D, like Hoffman, .fox@Pearson Smith Realty.
Nice. I'm sending you a text right now so you can write me one of those long form handwritten notes, one of your little love letters.
I do have them logged. I've always been emotional sap. So my wife has held on to the letters that I wrote her when we were, high school sweethearts. And I've never lost those. Yeah, they're pretty embarrassing.
Dude, can we get a hashtag trending like
my moon and stars type crap?
Yeah. That needs to happen immediately. Immediately, please. Please.
Well, she'll bring it out when she thinks I'm taking her for granted. She'll like bring it out for the kids, and or like if we have friends over drinking, she'll be like, Dustin, I want you to do an interpretive reading, and I'm drinking scotch, and she wants me to read these letters out loud, and I'm like, I'm a good sport.
Dude, no shame. I love it, man. I love it. Well, dude, thank you so much for kind of, unpackaging Dustin Fox for us here today on the show. I think there was a lot of meaty content, and I hope our listeners and our viewers got something special, an awesome takeaway that can help them improve their business and, more importantly, their lives. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Again, this is Top Agent Happy Hour. We were joined with Dustin Fox. I'm your co-host, Richard Bridges, and we will be back with you next week. See you then. That's